Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Babylon Irons match preview. Myself, Steve, and Mike today. Big game at the weekend before the international break. It's actually tomorrow. The games are coming thick and fast with Europe as well. So Villa at home, tough game. But we've actually got quite a good record at home against Villa. I think we're unbeaten in 8, 4 wins, 4 draws. So we've got the form, historically against them at home. So I think it'll be an interesting game. I think last season when we played Villa at home, we were really frustrated we didn't come away with a win in that game. I think we had a lot of chances. We spoke about the high line that Villa play, and they just persisted with it, and that's what Emery will do. So we know exactly how Villa are going to play and approach this. We probably know that we're going to be a little bit more conservative than we were against Freiburg in the opening 20 to 30 minutes of that game. So it'll be interesting to see how we first line up and secondly, how we actually approach it. But just to touch on Villa before we get into kind of the breakdown, how impressed have you been with them this season? Obviously Emery came in last season when Gerrard got sacked. People were kind of saying, they've done a really good job there to bring in Emery halfway through the season like that. And he's kind of proven that worth already. They're obviously competing for Champions League right now in 4th spot, and that would be an amazing achievement for them through to the quarterfinals of the Conference League. So, yeah, just as Emery as a whole for Villa, how impressed have you been with him?
I think he's a sensational manager. I've always said it, and I think when he went to Arsenal, he was just unlucky that that whole move was a shambles. Really, their recruitment was terrible, and I think had he got the backing and the sort of system that Arteta has behind him, I think he'd have probably won the league by now. He's that good. That's how much I rate him as a manager. I think he's fantastic. They've played some really good football at times, and I know that Emery's very happy to mix it up and change his style at times. But I think, in terms of managerial appointments, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I think he's sensational.
Yeah, I think as well, like you mentioned there, they're definitely where they should be in the league. I think they've performed to the levels that they're showing on the table, and they're averaging over 2 goals a game. They've been very exciting to watch. Their home form, obviously they went on like a 15-16 streak at home. They obviously beat Arsenal and Man City at home twice within about 3 days this season. Sorry, so they have been a very, very good team. Defensively, I think there's definitely ways we can exploit it, especially if they're going to, persist with that high line and with Kudus and Bowen either side of Antonio, if that's how we line up. What's the biggest danger for you, Mike, in terms of, Villa coming to London Stadium? Who do you who do you think their danger man is, and B, what the way they play, what kind of makes you think, oh, maybe we need to be wary of that?
Pace. It's just pace. They've got Bailey, who's finally found form. And if he's running against Cresswell, you're kind of just going to be worried, aren't you? Anyone with pace running at Cresswell who is direct, looking to try and get him behind, you're just going to be concerned with. So there's him. Obviously, Watkins is 50-50, but again, we've seen Watkins cause our defence an absolute torrid time. And anyone who really gets Zuma moving, we really then start to see him struggle. Like against Freiburg, wasn't great movement. Also, they were slow up front. So it was actually, he looked quality in that game. I think in this one, it's a completely different kettle of fish. And I think this is where we need Zuma to be switched on, because he's going to need to give himself that half a yard or a yard extra to ensure that he can get there. Because if he's not playing like that, then I think he's going to struggle. And I think they'll target him. I think they'll target our left side, which is going to be Zuma and Cresswell. And that would be the right choice, in all honesty. And I think if we try and be too aggressive and push too high, if they have the pace with, Diaby, Bailey and Watkins, you genuinely fear that we're going to let them in one too many times, just like we did at Villa Park, where we were quite frankly appalling. We were so bad.
Yeah, it wasn't a good performance at all. It's probably one of the worst this season from recent memory of this year. But yeah,
this year.
yeah, true. In terms of, obviously, John McGinn has been a very big player for them this season, and how he's been performing. He's going to be out. Obviously, he got that red card last week against Spurs, so he's suspended. How much of a loss do you think that is, Sloth, for them in the middle of the park, as well as having, Kamara out as well at the moment with an injury?
Well, it's kind of the walking wounded for Villa at the moment. I feel quite sorry for him. It's normally the sort of luck that we have, but Kamara, Louise, and McGinn, that's a huge loss. That's essentially their starting midfield that's gone. So it is a huge chance for us in the centre of the park to really establish ourselves and take control of the game that way. I think with Souček and Alvarez, of course, there it's something that we should be able to physically dominate. If we keep Paqueta in the middle, then I think that's going to be a real source of creativity for us. But the from a Villa point of view, I think it must be incredibly frustrating. The McGinn red card, I don't really understand anyone saying it's not a red card. That is the sort of challenge that the Red Bull slurping builder on a Sunday morning with his arm hanging out the window makes, and then wonders why he's been sent off for it. It's one of those where he's just kicked him. There's no attempt to play the ball. He's made it look like there is, and he's just kicked him because he's too slow. But in terms of a loss for Villa, it's huge because that is their centre of the park gone basically. But like Mike said, when you have the pace of Diaby, when you have the pace of Bailey and Watkins as well, it doesn't really matter. You can still hit teams on the counter. You can still stretch defense and cause problems.
Yeah, exactly. I think we are probably the worst team when it comes to dealing with pace in the Premier League, and we're going to have to be switched on to that. But I think also as well, they're probably thinking the same thing as us. When they're pushing up high, we've got runners in behind. Bowen will do that out to in run that we've seen many times. Kudus can pick up the ball and drive with it, or make those runs as well. Antonio as well, if he's going to be playing, he'll be making those runs in the channels in behind that Villa defence. So there's definitely going to be room to exploit how Villa come and try and press and play high, but we also need to be very, very careful ourselves defensively because they do offer a lot of threats. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think you touched on it there, Sloth, with Paqueta maybe playing in the middle. Do you expect Paqueta to start after he came off with an injury? Do you think he'll be back in the lineup?
I think that was safeguarding at best. It was one of those where I think he's basically just seen the score and gone, whatever's going on with Paqueta's leg, we'll sub him now, not risk it, keep him ready for Sunday.
Yeah, we got international break as well after as well, so hopefully he can get a nice rest then. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting as well to see. Do you think Antonio, Mike? Obviously, he came back in against Freiburg. He isn't really match fit, or he looked match fit, but he probably can't play week in, week out, every 3 days, because that's what we saw last time with Antonio got burnt out, and he actually might be a very important figure for us after the international break. Do you think it's a manner of managing him, or again, with the international break coming up, we can probably afford to bring him in, play him for an hour, and then sub out if need to?
Yeah, I think with the international break, it changes that idea of the rotation, because it's, well, some of these players will have a break. Some obviously will go international duties such as Paqueta, etc. But it's also the fact that I can play them here. Although some may be travelling, there are always going to get a rest. So I need to use them. And it's one of those games where if we win, we kind of start to cement our place a little bit in seventh. Just give ourselves a little bit of security. Don't be like by a point or two, but it gives you that little bit of extra kind of confidence to hold. And it also, again, takes a point off for someone who's above you. I doubt we'll have enough time in which to catch, say, Villa. But again, it puts that little bit of extra, spring in your step if you are taking points off those above that are mathematically in reach. So I think it'll only be a good thing. And it should be something to kind of light a fire in Antonio as to, look, you've not performed this year. When I've tried to trust you, you've not really kind of given back what I've given to you, which is this level of trust. Yeah. So I'm now looking at you to actually prove to me that you are the man still to lead this line for the rest of the season, because the last 2 games you've given it to me, or a game and a half, you've given it to me. So I need that level. If you're not going to play that level, Bowen's there, and you have, and there is no way. In the past, he's had opportunities to say, yeah, but I'm doing better than Haller. I'm performing better than Alert, or I'm performing better than Skamaka, has no leg to stand on now.
Yeah.
It is now complete meritocracy. And if he doesn't do it, Bowen goes back in and he's shafted back to the bench, and he has no leg to stand on and no one to blame other than himself. So
yeah,
I think he'll use that as a motivator, and he will play and look to push himself as he has in the last few games. He hasn't pushed himself that hard, I would say, in probably 18 months.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think as well, we've seen too many times this season that we've often conceded the first goal in matches. So I think we just need to approach it a slightly different way. I think we need to try and push on to Villa. Obviously, we're playing at home. I think we've conceded first in 7 of our last 9 games. So it makes it such a difficult task for us because you're already playing catch up when you probably shouldn't be. So Aston Villa, they will concede goals. They've conceded, I think, around 1.5 per game this season. So they do leak goals, but obviously we know that attacking threat is there from them. So we're going to have to be switched on. I reckon it'll be quite a high scoring game. Who do you think our key is in this game? We've mentioned a few key names there, but if you could maybe pick one standout for this type of fixture, who would you guys be looking at?
I'm quite looking forward to seeing Kudus versus Cash, because obviously I think if Kudus is able to pin Cash, that also does kind of relieve some of that pressure on that left-hand side as well, in terms of us defensively, because he likes to get forward and kind of, overlap. And it's also quite a key variable of what Unai Emery likes to do. He likes to use his fullbacks. So if we're able to consistently get the ball into Kudus, his movement and his ability to drive is naturally going to push Cash further and further back, which is going to maybe create some separation on that their right hand side, our left. So that I think is a key battle. And if we got Piquet obviously playing that inside left, the ability for them to every now and then exchange positions. So one can get the ball and one can offer. I think that would be great, because then it also gives Kudus the opportunity to do overlapping and underlapping runs if he's consistently alternating with Piquet. So I think that could be really key. Otherwise, I think probably our left back position is probably going to be the biggest test, I think. Should, say, Bailey be playing, bear in mind, he's found form this year.
Yeah, Sloth, would you agree?
I think I'm just for me and some of the football that I really like. I'm obviously looking forward to seeing Kudus, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Alvarez has got to offer. If he's got a bit between his teeth,
he doesn't get a yellow card, eh?
Well, yeah. If he's got a bit between his teeth after the Freiburg game, I think it will be interesting. As we mentioned, Villa are kind of at a loss in centre midfield, and I think this is a big chance for him to show West Ham fans what they'll be missing when we go away to Leverkusen, but also make a bit of a statement.
I completely agree. I agree. I think that midfield, we now have a chance with their injuries and suspensions to kind of dominate that middle of the park. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we approach it and who's in the lineup. There is a small chance Emerson could be back in at left back, but again, we'll have to wait and see with that one. But I think the team's pretty much picking itself right now. I think Ward-Prowse has probably now dropped down to the bench in Moyes' eyes, which is probably for the best at the moment with the way we want to play with that front three of Antonio at the centre of it. So tough game, guys. Obviously, they're 12 points ahead of us in 4th. We've still got European ambitions of our own, and we're very much in a position to do it. So it's kind of in our hands again to do it. So score predictions. How are we feeling for this one?
2-2 draw.
Oh,
I'd love to see us win. However, I'm not sure how much of Freiburg kind of took out of them mentally for this game. But I do think it's probably in the first 10-15 minutes is going to be vital in this game.
Villa played as well, didn't they, midweek?
They did. But they also won 4-0 as well. So they're going to be quite buoyed as we are. Yeah. The argument is they had to travel to Amsterdam. It's not much of a travel, but they had to at least travel.
I think they were at home.
I thought that was at home. Never mind. But, to be fair, it is time traveling when you go to Birmingham anyway. So, I do think that first 15 minutes is important. If we come out and play against them that first 15, like we did say against Brentford against them, then I think it could be maybe, like you say, a bit of a high scoring game, because I don't see us not conceding. It's just how we are.
To be fair, I predicted a clean sheet against Freiburg and it actually came off. So there we go.
Yeah, we know, but pigs often don't fly twice, do they? So
No, exactly. Sloth, what about you?
Do you know what? I'm gonna be optimistic, and I'm gonna say 3-1. I think we could potentially really bully them in the middle of the park with Alvarez, Souček, and Paqueta. If they can take the game by the scruff of the neck, I think we should get 3 points. But
yeah, no,
again, just depends. If Villa's forwards are on it, then there's not much we can do.
That's the thing. We've done it in the past, haven't we? We've at times we've mauled them. You know, doing them for 4-1, I think 3-1, 4-0, 3-0. You know, since they've been back in the Premier League, so we've got it in our locker against Villa. It's just whether the Villa under Unai Emery is going to be the same team that we can turn over. But if we look back to last year, we should have turned them over. But I think, what was it, 2-2 draw?
1-1, yeah.
1-1, yes. And you come out of that game going, how have we not won that? Because it was just, they were almost negative in a lot of what they did, but we just somehow just couldn't get the winner. And maybe the injuries, they might be that fit. They may play like that and try and hit us on the counter, but we've got to be ruthless. And if we as ruthless as it was against Freiburg, then I think we'll win. But it's just what team turns up in the Premier League. It's not always the same team that we see, say, in Europe, or we don't always see that team consistently turn up in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, Aston Villa is what we've kept 5 clean sheets this season. They've only kept 6 clean sheets. So there's definitely room to get at Villa. There's 100% going to be opportunities for us. It's just like you say, Mike, if we're going to be clinical, I'm going to be positive as well. I think we might edge it 2-1. But yeah, I can see it being a draw. I'll be disappointed if we lose. And I think it would depend on how we approach the game. But if we go for it from the front foot, first 15, 20 minutes, press them back as well, try and create some opportunities, I think we'll be able to get in front and hopefully go on to win the game. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. Are you anticipating a win for this huge match if we're going to keep pushing on into the top 7, trying to get European football again next year? But tough game against Villa, who also have European ambitions of their own in the Champions League. So going to be tough. Let us know in the comments what your score predictions are. And yeah, make sure to leave a like on the video. As always, if you are new, make sure to subscribe. And lads, until next time.
Come on, you irons.